Everyone. I just wanted to talk to you today a little bit about our service Max Collect with the MoneyQuest Corporation. So I'm going to start the presentation as if I was walking into the doctor's office and what I would say and how I would do it. Hello, Dr. Smith. How are you today? I just wanted to go ahead and tell you a little bit about our company. First thing I want you to know is that MoneyQuest is not a collection agency. What we are is we're a national service bureau. What I'm going to talk to you about is the fact that we're going to be talking about your money. We're going to talk about how it's your money, how you deserve it. You've already performed the service, doctor, so what we want to do is get more of those unrecovered dollars coming into you. We want to do it in less time, and we want to do it at little or no cost. Now, the best thing that I can tell you about our service is that we're going to, well, first I want to tell you the difference. I want to tell you the difference between us and a collection agency. See, a collection agency, they're going to get all the money sent directly to them. With us, all the money is going to be sent directly to you. So we're never going to touch the money, and we're not going to make those phone calls like a collection agency would. And we're not going to be 30 to 50%, but as low as 5%. So you don't have to trust us. We actually have to trust you because the money's going to you. Now, the other thing about the National Service Bureau is we're all about repeat business, about you getting to maintain that relationship with your patients. But we're going to give you the impact of the attorney intervention and credit bureau reporting by integrating that into your collection process. Now, we offer a really unique service. One of the things that's unique about it is it's all automated, it's web-based, and therefore it's going to enhance what you're currently doing in-house. Now, if you were doing this all in-house and you've never used a third party, you're not using a collection service, then this is a great tool. This is going to actually help you by giving you that impact. So you've always had the bark, and now you'll have the bite. So what we want to do is simply enhance the ability of you getting that money coming back into the office. We want to get more of that money. We want to do it faster, and we want to do it at a dramatically low cost. It's not the favorite job of the office manager to chase down that money. So what we want to do is have the people call you instead of you having to call them. Now, let's take a look at what a delinquent account really looks like. This is what everyone sees it as. Okay, what you see is this picture of a fish. Well, that's because delinquent accounts and past due accounts is just like an old, dead, rotten fish. It just doesn't get better with age. And in fact, it's something that you just want to get rid of. It starts to stink up in the office. So you want to go ahead and you wish that you could just throw it away. But the thing is, see, doctor, your delinquent accounts, it's not a fish. It's people. It's your patients. So what we want to do is get you to be able to retrain the thinking of those patients. Instead of just getting rid of it like you would the rotten fish, what you want to do is just retrain them so that they will learn to pay you on a timely basis. Let's take a look at this chart, for instance. This is one that was put together by the U.S. Department of Commerce Statistics. And one of the things that they're stating here is that if you look in the green there where it says 90, 80, 70, right there, that's when people have money. When it's green, they're in the money. But if you look here where it's in the silver, now they're starting to pay their bills with credit cards. Okay, that's probably their platinum credit card right there. And then you see where it's in the red. Now, this is when they're in the red. In other words, they owe not only you, doctor, but everyone else in town. So it's kind of like if you look at this as a totem pole of debt. Let's say that you're right here and you say, okay, this right here would be mortgage, rent, electric, phone, cable. Now, a lot of people say they'll pay the cable before the electric, which it doesn't make sense to me. But the point here is that these are the ones that are vital, maybe their car note. Then goes all these credit card bills. These are all those credit cards that they're using to pay the next guy and the next guy. And then finally, at the very end of this, I'm sorry to say, doctor, but you trickle down right here to the bottom. Right here when they're in the red, that's also right when you're the last one. And it's not because you're not a great doctor, and it's not because you didn't perform a great service. It's just you're no longer an emergency. they're no longer in pain, and they're more concerned about what the credit cards will do to their credit, and they need another credit card to pay the next bill. Or perhaps, they're going to shut their electric, or they'll take their vehicle. So you kind of trickle down to the bottom. But what we want to do is move you right here underneath the utilities, right before the credit cards, because we want them to be more concerned about not paying you than they are even their credit cards. So what we're going to do is kind of retrain them. It's kind of like training up a child. If you have a child, and I think Dr. Spock came out with this, and it's like you count to 3. You don't beat them anymore. You don't paddle them. You just count. So it's like this with your patients. You're sending out statements, and you're saying 1, 2, 3. I mean it. Now, with a child, you just say 1, 2, 3. I mean it. You're punished. You're grounded. No dessert. You can't play the PlayStation. No computer. No cell phone. And by the time they're 15, they're running out the door, and you're saying, and you can't have the keys. So what they've learned is that there's no follow-through. It's just been empty threats. And so, therefore, your impact with those children have declined. They know that you're not really going to follow through. What we want to do is change that thinking and go back to the old way of thinking when it was, okay, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And I can't say spank because Dr. Spock doesn't allow it. But the bottom line is that at this point they need to have a fear in them of what will take place if they don't do what they're supposed to do. And that's what we want to do with you on counting to 3. 1, you've sent them out a statement, and now they're going to have to pay an additional fee. Maybe now the credit bureau may get involved. At this point, maybe a collection agency, an attorney. At this point, they understand that, wow, if I owe all these different doctors, and, this one has the one that's given me the most impact, well, then this is the first one I'm going to pay. So if you look how money depreciates, according to the Commerce of Statistics, if you turn those accounts in early, if you do that at the 30, 60, 90 stage, you got a good, 80, 90% chance of collection. But if you wait until they're 9 months, 10 months old, like collection agencies, when they typically get them, they get less than a 10% chance of collection. Same thing in-house. If you're holding those accounts in-house, you're going to get less than a 10% chance of collecting that money. And we want you to have those recoveries. So if you look at it, on average, if you look at according to the ACA, it states that medical clinics and people in the healthcare industry, it's 7.6% is what is recovered by a collection agency once it gets to that point. If you look at a hospital or major, big establishments like hospitals, it's 6.5%. So, doctor, right there, that shows you that if you say, I need $1,000 collected, and they come back and give you $70, you're supposed to say, well, that's the national average. Well, we are 4 to 5 times greater than that because we're going to show you a way that you can turn that in earlier and get a lot better results. Now, it's kind of like this, doctor. If they owe you, remember I said that they probably owe all these other people? Let's say that they owe 5 doctors. I'm going to start here with my pinky. The first doctor is just sending out, statements and just saying what's owed, okay? The next one, let's do the ring finger. They're now saying that they're not only sending out statements, but they're even putting sticky notes and little, red stamps on it saying past due and, and little handwritten notes. Well, then the third one, let's say the middle finger, and there's nothing intended, but let's just say that it's the collection agency mentioned in the letter. So those people not only are sending out statements, sending little notes, but now they're mentioning collection agency. And let's say the fourth one is the pointer finger. They even maybe perhaps get to the point of saying, we may have to turn this over to credit bureau. So you've got someone doing all that, but then comes along the thumbs up. And that's the one who not only does everything I just stated, but then gives you an attorney intervention, gives you credit bureau reporting follow-through all the way to the point of litigation if necessary. Well, then most likely if I owed 5 doctors, doctor, I'd pay the one with the thumbs up, which is us. Because why? We're going to be able to give you that impact so that you're moved right up under where those utilities are. So, doctor, let me ask you, let's just say that I came in on January 1st and I, forgot my checkbook. What would be the very next action that you would take? So you'd say that you would probably send out a statement. Okay, now let's say the following month I still haven't paid. Perhaps now you've made a phone call and sent out a statement with a little note. And now by the third month, you should maybe have gotten an insurance payment. So maybe now you're sending me a statement letting me know what the balance is. That's my responsible amount that I owe. And now maybe at this point, maybe another phone call. And what I usually hear from the doctors is then at that point, about right here, they'll start maybe sending their first letter, their second letter, making phone calls in between perhaps, and maybe their third letter. And at this point, they throw up their hands, and they're just saying, well, I don't see anything happening. Well, at that point, they go to a collection agency, and they will get that help. Well, what we want to do is give you a better alternative, a much better option than that. So if you look at it, let's go ahead and talk about an example of that. Let me just show you first before I go on. I want to show you an example. Let's just look at, here's a status report that we have from our company. And on an average day, let's say 302 average days, that means a complete average of all the ages. And then we did 29%. Well, you realize that's 4 to 5 times greater than any collection agency, which that's pretty good. However, you start turning those over, and we get an average age of 105 days, and you start turning those in at 30, 60, 90 days. Well, then you're looking at a 54% recovery rate in this example, and you can see that that's more money back in your pocket. And that's what we want to do, doctor, is bring that cash flow back into you. Now, if you look at the alternatives you have, you got in-house. You can continue doing what you're doing. You have legal action. You can go to small claims. You've got writing it off, which is, at least you're not getting any more debt. And then you have a collection agency. It's always the last resort. But let's look at each one of those a little closer. Let's say that it's in-house. Well, okay, on the in-house, you look at, you're just basically throwing good money after bad. And then the efforts may be inconsistent because I'm sure your staff has many things that they do besides chasing the old money. And the other thing is it's very time-consuming, and honestly, it's the least favorite job in the office. Think about the expense. I mean, what you're dealing with is you've got, the ink, the postage, the actual paper that's being used, not counting the time and the money that you're paying your staff to have to do all this lick and stick and stamping and stuff and all themselves. So what we want to do is we want to make it to where they, when you're looking at the in-house effort, it's going to decline in the results because you don't have that impact. I mean, what are you going to say in the next 30 days that you didn't already say in the prior 60? So what we want to do is look at another option. The next option you're looking at is legal. Well, you can go ahead and go to small claims court. And you can sit there half a day and pay your office manager to sit there for, 6 hours. And she comes back out with a piece of paper. And it's a judgment. And it says, guess what, doctor? They owe you money. It's very costly. You just paid $80 to $100 just to sit there in court to go to small claims. If you went and got legal action, well, an attorney wouldn't even want to touch it unless it was in the thousands. I mean, they would laugh at you for $200. It wouldn't be worth their time, and it certainly wouldn't be worth your money. So when you look at the legal thing, the problem there is it's expensive. And when you look at writing it off, well, that's a great thing. At least you're not spending any more money, so there's no more internal cost. But then again, there's no more recovery. I mean, unless they just decide to owe no man nothing and to get their life right and, pay off all their debts, and you just happen to fall in line with that, then that's great. The other thing is that, I guess you're going to get a reputation of, oh, well, you can just go to him and he'll just write it off, so don't worry about a thing. He's a great doctor. And you don't want that either. So writing it off, unless a miracle happens, is not always the best thing for you. Yes, it gets it off the books, but it doesn't put it in the bank. Now, if you look at a collection agency, that's typically the last resort. I mean, you're not going to do it in-house. The attorney's too expensive, or maybe the small claims. You're writing it off. It's just losing the money. So you go to a collection agency and hope that they will be able to do something. And here's the problem. you're looking at the loss of customers. I mean, you don't want to have to worry about, losing your customers, having limited recovery, and it's very expensive as well. I mean, think about it. How friendly are they when they call your patients? I mean, I understand that their job is to scare them. So, and think about this, doctor. How much money are you spending each month just to get one more patient to walk in that door? I mean, you probably got yellow pages, perhaps cable, maybe billboards, or, who knows? You may be sending out postcards. But in any way, you're trying to bring in a new patient. Wouldn't it be better to perhaps just get some referrals from some happy patients that you already have? And what about, again, the negative image? There's that negative word of mouth. I mean, it's kind of like, I guess a good example is I was talking to one of my clients, and it was actually a prospect at the time, and I said, well, there's word of mouth is an important thing. It can be used in a great way, and you can have a real positive word of mouth, but it may not be good for you. What if you go to your neighbor and you say, I'm looking for a great dentist. Do you have any suggestions? Oh, I love this doctor, or maybe it's a doctor you need. And you go and you say, oh, they're great. They got great bedside manner. They're so sweet. They're very thorough. They're very intelligent. But I tell you what I love about them the most is it's been almost a year, and I mean they quit calling, they quit billing. So I mean you won't have to pay the bill. Friends will tell friends each other, these kind of things. This actually happened to me. And when I was looking for a security company, one of my acquaintances told me, oh, yeah, they're great, everything, they're on time, but, they just never bill me. Well, we don't want you to have that reputation. So the thing is with a collection agency is you also don't want them to say, yeah, they sick the dogs on me, and all of a sudden, people are calling them and harassing them and going after them. The other thing is you're no longer in control. So this is another thing. You can't negotiate with them. Maybe one of your patients has had a serious illness and perhaps they want to negotiate. And at this point, once it goes to the collections, no, they work on commission and they're going to make a decision based on what's best for them, not what's necessarily best for you. And you can't settle an account. Once you give something to a collection agency, that's it. They determine if you try to settle an account or take an account back, you can do it, but they're going to charge you a penalty or percentage, and you're going to still pay the difference. So that's one of the things, just losing those customers because you don't get to maintain that relationship. Now, when you look at the limited recovery, I mean, on average, a collection agency, according to the ACA, they're getting them at an average of 10 months old, anywhere from 9 to 12 months. So they're getting them old. So when they get them, they've already been worked hard by you in your office. And I don't blame them. What they do next is they do things called cherry picking, or we call them skimming the accounts, is kind of like this, doctor. If they were given a $50 balance, a $500 balance, and a $5,000 balance, and they work for a collection agency and they make 10%, I'm just making up a number, but let's say that they got 10% of $5,000. Well, that's $500. They can take that home and feed the family. But on $50, they're going to get $5. It's not worth it to them to spend a lot of time. So therefore, you're going to get an inconsistent effort, and you need to have that consistency. But the problem is it's not worth it for $50. So the other thing is you don't know how many letters they're sending out, and you don't know how many phone calls. I mean, when you turn an account over to a collection agency, they're in total control, and they will determine, according to the balance and the age, of how much effort they want to put forth. And what if there's bad addresses or maybe bad phone numbers? Do you think they're just going to, out of the goodness of their heart, just start skip tracing? No. Then there's going to be additional fees for that, and most of them just don't bother with it. They just say, can't be found. And imagine, like back in the 80s when I first started in this industry, it was great. We used to answer the phone, that we'd be eating dinner, the phone would ring, it may be the neighbors, it may be the kids, friends, and you may answer the phone. But these days, no, technology has hurt us, Doc, because now we have caller ID, voicemail, call block, and if you really make me mad, I'll zap you, And again, there's empty threats with a collection agency. Now, I'm not blaming them. It's not their fault. I mean, if I worked for a collection agency and I was living on a percentage, I would do the same. And if I had to make these phone calls, it's the only way that they know to get through. Again, with the empty threats, a lot of times they say, we're going to do this, this, and this, but then they really don't have that permission to follow through any further. And what about some collection agencies? I talked to a lot of clients when I walked in, and they said, yeah, it was this guy's down the street, and he's local, and he only handles local. He doesn't have national impact and national coverage that we offer you. And the debtor has the rights. If you think about it today, if they say, look, don't call me back, and it's considered harassment, they have to follow those laws. They cannot, make those calls, or they'll fall under the lines of harassment. And the debtor, if they're going to open the letter or answer the phone, why are they going to do it? ABC Collections, I'm going to open that letter, I'm excited. No, they know they owe you, and they know it's a collection agency. Or answer the phone, ABC Collections calling. They're not going to answer the phone. They know who it is. And then if you look at the expense in it, you're looking at 30 to 50%. Wouldn't it be great if, you didn't do 30 to 50% of the job. You didn't do 30 to 50%, you didn't put half a cast on them. You took care of them fully, and so you deserve to be paid fully. I mean, even if you could get 95% of your money back, that's better than 50. And what about if late fees? A lot of collection agencies will attach late fees, but they'll keep that money to help offset their cost. And maybe I have a lot of clients that tell me, I haven't heard from the collection agency. I signed up with them and haven't got any checks, and I don't get any reports. So they don't even know that there's an existence until they get a check in the mail. And the problem is if an unidentified payment came into a collection agency and they didn't put what doctor it was, they just have to put it in their miscellaneous account. It's not like it's going to go to you. There's very little reporting so that you don't know in a typical collection agency. Another thing that they do, and they tend to do, and you don't know if they're doing it or not, and I'm not saying all of them, I'm just saying this could happen, and that is floating the money. In other words, doctor, do you really know when they made that payment? Let's say you turned them in January and they paid it in February. You may not get that money until April. So what they've done is they've had a couple months there, that they were able to float that money. It's not like the patient's going to pick up the phone and say, hey, doctor, I just want you to know, thank you so much for sending me that collection agency, and I just wanted you to know that I did pay that, and by the way, I even paid an additional fee. Even though I ignored your office, I just want you to know I paid the collection agency. It's just not going to happen. So you have no way of knowing when that money came or if it came. Now, the other thing is, basically, a collection agency, they're going to charge whatever the market will bear. They'll go to one office, and they'll tell them 40%. They'll go to the next office, and they'll tell them 45%. They'll go down to the next office, and they'll tell them 50%. They're going to have their own guidelines of what they're going to charge. And that's going to be based maybe on age, maybe on volume, and so on. So when you look at it, half the price, half the job, no. It's very expensive. So what we want to do is not have to use that last resort and not have to look at any more alternatives, but start looking at a solution. See, we're not an option, and let me go ahead. It's not moving. I can't move to the next screen.
Is it not working for you, Kathy?
No, it's not. There it goes. Okay, so if you look at the solution, it's Max Collect. And why is because now you're going to have the impact of credit bureau reporting, collection agency effort, intensive attorney intervention. All of that is now available to you. We're going to send out a series of letters. They're going to, have, 7 letters going out every 14 days. And, the thing about it is that you now have that impact of all of this, and we found a way to get the debtors to not only answer the phone, but also to open the letters. let's take a look at this next. Everything's done on a web portal. So what I'm going to show you is how to start this process and then what takes place. Let's look at the first letter. First thing I want to tell you about is we're going to send out 7 letters. They're going to go out every 14 days. Okay, we're going to also have an automated call in there. We're going to have 3 letters from an attorney. Let's look at the first thing. The first 4 letters are going to be on check stock paper. So one of the ways that we got them to open the mail is, Doc, if you went home and you had an envelope and you see a check inside of it because you're looking through the window envelope, you don't know who it's from, but you see a check, would you open it? Yeah, you'd want to find out who's sending you money. So we found a way to get them to open that mail because they're excited. We have different colors and design. They open that up, and it gets their attention. We might get the white attorney gets involved. He's going to, about 14 days after that 3rd letter, he's now going to place a call. And on their caller ID, it's going to say attorney at law. And he's going to ask them one simple question. I need to know what your intentions are about this debt because I need to know what to advise my client about further action. So they don't have to threaten them. They just need to know what are your intentions. If they want to make a payment arrangement at that time, he'll make an arrangement. And at this point, they are now dealing directly with the attorney. Any correspondence from here on, he will now tell them, you had the opportunity to deal with my client, now you will be dealing with me. So he will send a final AT demand, which is an attorney demand, and what that's going to state is a possible lien of property, garnishment of wages, or judgment against you, if it's allowed in your state. Okay, I know there are some states that can't do those things, so of course, whatever attorneys in that state knows the rules and the laws for that area. But that right there gets their attention. So now they've received what's, now saying you deal with me, and they've received that phone call. So what that does is it now opens up the arranging of litigation, and that's all done on a contingency, case, plus the court costs. Then you also have, credit bureau reporting. Those are the 2 options. And doctor, it's your choice. On each individual patient, you get to decide, do I want to pursue this further legally, or do I just want to affect their credit? We'll take all those unpaid accounts, and report them, and all this will be, maintained, by the interface of our site. So, doctor, if you look at it, it's kind of like comparing. If you look at a collection agency, versus us, if you look at those numbers, here's what you're seeing. It's kind of like if I had 5 $100 bills, and I said to you, okay, doctor, would you rather that I get 4 of them and you get 1, or I get 1 and you get 4? I'm sure you'd rather have the majority. And it's the same thing here. If you look at this, you're seeing 34% in the red here, and that's the collection agency, and that's the cost, okay? Would you rather have 30 to 40% cost, or would you rather have 30 to 40% in results of recovery? When you compare the 2, that's how I look at it. Would I rather have 40% cost or 40% recovery? And then look down here where it shows with the collection agency, their results of recovery is less than 10%. Or would you rather pay less than 10%? Well, I know, doctor, you're thinking that's a silly question, and I know your answer. I can see it. The answer is you'd much rather get to have recovery of over 40% and pay less than 10%. And that's what you get with Max Collect. So why does Max Collect perform better than any of the other options? We're going to give you a tool. It's like hiring an assistant with us. You tell us what to do, when to do it. You just push buttons, and you tell us, and we do all the lick and stick and stamping and stuffing. If you look at, it's kind of like a screwdriver. If you use a screwdriver, you can manually turn it, and you can do it the long and hard way and sweat your tears, The other choice would be an electric screwdriver. And then you just power it up, push that button, and that baby goes. Now, here's the difference. if you take an electric screwdriver and still use it like a screwdriver, it's no better. In fact, it's even worse. So what you want to do is when you get that tool, you want to use it properly. So by turning those accounts in early and reporting everything and submitting accounts on a timely basis, you've now got an electric screwdriver, and it's going to do the job quickly. Now, the time factor is great because by turning those over earlier and by the fact that we're sending out 7 letters every 14 days, and that process is, within 100 days, the whole process is complete, and it's already now you making a decision. The other thing is because we're sending all that money directly to you, you have the money sitting in your account, so you don't have to worry about trusting us or any of those things I told you about a collection agency because the money's in your bank. And the cost, 5% versus 30 to 50, even on an average of 10% would be great. So you're looking at a nickel and a dollar, and that's what we want to do for you with Max Collect. Now, the client fees, if you're looking at it, what we're going to offer you is everything I just said. You're going to have the 7 letters every 14 days. You're going to have the automated phone call. So you're going to have the first 4. Then you're going to have the automated call. Then you're going to have 3 letters from the attorney. You're going to have the attorney phone call. You're going to have attorney demand. And you're going to have credit bureau reporting. You have all of this, and it's all set up as a one-time fee. So we give you a one-time, lifetime setup fee. And in that one-time lifetime setup fee, it's a measly $4.95. And I apologize for the small amount because, I know you can go buy QuickBooks, and spend that easily, and we do a lot more than that. And if you think about it, you're getting a web-based, what you're getting is you're going to have an attorney on retainer. You're going to have credit bureau reporting. Everything that you're going to gain is you're going to have a personalized website, free training and support. You're going to have status reports at a touch of a button 24/7. And you're going to have a service representative, and you're also going to have me. So, and I'm going to make sure that you're taken care of. So when you're looking at this, doctor, for this, you're getting an attorney on retainer. You know what it would cost to get an attorney on retainer? It could be thousands. Credit bureau reporting. You're not having to join a local credit bureau or have to have at least 600 accounts in order to submit and all this. We're going to take care of all that for you through our batching. And the training, typically when you have something like this, you have to get software and go through training, and all of that is handled by the National Service Department, and they will contact you and walk you through it in just a few easy steps. It's set up to where anyone would be able to use it easily. So for that $4.95, you're getting all that. Now, we also have a processing fee. So you're getting 8 letters, basically. You get 7 letters that go out every 14 days, plus you get the thank you letter. Whenever that's, even if it's all 7 letters and then you send thank you, it's up to 8 letters. You're also getting that automated phone call. You're getting all of that. Where could you find an attorney to write 3 demands for $12.95? I don't think you can get them, for $50. They said, one of the clients of mine who is an attorney stated that the bar recommends that they at least charge $100 when they send out a letter. Now, I've seen some that do it as small as $50, but because they don't know what kind of follow-up may come from that one letter that they sent. So therefore, the value right there, that should be, if you said it was $50, that would be $150 for 3 letters, and it's a mere $12.95. But even on top of that, we added a $25 fee to help you offset that cost. So right there, we're already showing if 1 out of 3, actually pay that fee, which is the national average, about 1 out of 3, because you're going to have 3 different kinds of people. You're going to have the ones that are going to do things on principle. I won't pay you not one more penny than what I owe, period. Then you're going to have those who love the doctor, they want to stay with the doctor, and they just got a little behind, and they feel bad, and they're going to pay that $25. And then you've got the one that was a doctor or a dentist hopper. Well, I'll go to this doctor this time, I'll go to this one the next time, and they never had an intention. So those are the ones who will not pay those fees. So if you can get 1 out of 3, and I've seen some that even get more than that, you can use that fee as a negotiating tool. You can say, well, look, That's fine. We'll go ahead and waive the fee if you'll get that payment into me by Friday. So you can see how that will easily bring in that additional income. I have clients that have got 75% of the fees. It not only paid for all of the processing fees, it also paid the percentage, which I'm going to show you that next. In other words, we have a time-driven fee schedule, but the medical community loves it because it's not based on the date of last service. It's actually based on the last financial activity. So what that means is, doctor, let's say that a mother came in January, and then you have family accounts, and let's say the daughter, came in May, and then in June you turned in the mother to collections. Well, because that other daughter came in May and it's a family account, we consider that a financial activity. Or let's say they had to come in for an emergency. Let's say if it was a dentist and they had broken their tooth, or if it's a doctor and they broke their arm and they still didn't pay the last bill, but the doctor can't refuse them because they're in pain. Well, there you go. So that puts you in a position. Well, with us, we consider that account 5%. And the reason is because there was a financial activity, or an insurance payment could come. When the insurance payment comes in, that's the date we start counting. So you're looking, and it locks in. So whatever age that it is, it locks in. In other words, if that account was 30 days old because that daughter came in, it doesn't matter how many letters go by, it's still locked in at that 5%. A lot of people think there's a catch. What's the catch? There is no catch. We lock that rate in, and it doesn't matter if it's on the first letter, the fifth, or the seventh. So that time-driven fee schedule, in your case, doctor, once that insurance payment comes in, what I would recommend is that within 60 days of that insurance payment, you submit that account to us, and then you're still only at 5%. But if you choose to work that in-house another 60, 90 days, then you can be at 10%, which is still extremely better. Even at 2 years, we're only at 25%. So that lets you see right there, that's less than what a typical collection agency charges. Now, if it gets to that point that once that attorney starts making those phone calls and sends that AT demand, not those first 3, but the last 2, that is now at a flat 25%. It's on a contingency basis, and it's only what's collected. If he doesn't collect anything, then he doesn't charge you anything. And if he goes to court for it and you decide to go to litigation, then it's 35%. However, he is going to tack onto the judgment all court costs and attorney fees. So, like if you had $1,000 and they went to court and it was $200 for court costs and then the $350 for the attorney, now your patient's going to pay $1,550 in that judgment versus $1,000. And the great thing is he's going to charge the 35% on the $1,550, not on the $1,000. So that helps you offset that cost again. Now, the billing you're going to like, because the way that's set up is that you're going to report the payment in, let's say, in the month of August, and then in September, the following month, is when you'll get billed. So you may start an account, like I said, the 1st, the 14th, the 28th, and they pay that bill. You haven't even been billed for the very first processing fee. So the client, meaning you, are going to be the one who receives that payment. And then all you're going to do is simply click on it. I'm going to show you how to do it in a real quick process. You're just simply going to let us know, hey, paid in full, send a thank you letter, and it's done. And then as far as the fee, that'll be billed the following month as well. The other thing that you're going to get with us that's a lot different than collection agencies, you're going to get a lot of customer service. You'll be able to reach us by phone, by email. You can send messages on your website. You're going to have a web base that's 24/7. There's no software. You don't have to worry about, does this work? I'm going to have to pay all this money for software, and then I have to pay all this money for training. No, it's all set up for you. You're going to get an initial call. That's going to be from the service department. They're just going to make sure that all the information is correct and that you have a complete understanding, and whoever is the user is going to be able to understand how to use the service. They'll even walk through the first couple with you and hold your hand. You're also going to get periodic contact where you'll hear from the service department. And Dr. Me, the representative, you're going to hear from me as well because I want to make sure that you're happy. And you're going to be able to have online help as well. So you have all of that right there at your disposal. Now let me tell you some things that I'm excited to tell you about healthcare. The healthcare providers, they like some of these features. One, they like the fact that that it's password protected and because there's no software needed. They like the fact that they can get detailed reporting. You can actually sort it any way you want. I'm going to show you that in a moment. The other thing is it's easy submission, no paperwork. Most collection agencies, they're still in the old days where you still have to fax things over or send them, proof of debt and all this. Nope, it's just name, address, phone number, date of birth, social, last activity date, and balance. And that's it. And once you supply that information, you push a button, and that night at midnight, it's gone. Another feature that they love is what you can do when you're actually using the account. Like, let's say that the patient owes you $800 and you want to settle an account. Well, if it was with a collection agency, you're going to pay on that $800 or you're going to pay some kind of percentage penalty. With us, we understand that doctors have charity in their heart, and we understand that there may be an $800 balance. You run into someone at the store or in church, and they say, my wife has cancer, and you hear a story that touches your heart, and you decide, you know what, I just want to accept the $300, and I'm going to write that $500 off due to, charity. We're going to understand that you have that right to do that, and we're only going to bill you on that $300 and not the $800 like a collection agency. That's very unique in this industry. Another thing is recalling an account. Let's say you put someone in there either by mistake or you had a duplicate or perhaps it's just one of those situations like I just told you, and you need to completely not just settle but recall the account. And as long as that's not done every single day on an ongoing basis, we certainly understand, and we're not going to charge you a percentage penalty for pulling it. Now, the things that my office managers love is they love the short hold feature. In other words, let's just say that someone owes you $800 and they just mail you a check for $200 and you have no idea when they're going to make the next payment. You don't know what their intentions are. You can just put it on short hold, or let's say they called you and made an arrangement and said, I'm going to pay you $200 a month for the next 4 months if that's okay with you, and you agree to it, then you can just, when you get that $200 payment in, put it on short hold. And what that tells them is stops those letters for 30 days. And then on the 31st day, if they don't follow through with that promise, well, then the letters automatically start up on the next letter. So if it stopped on letter 2, it starts up on letter 3. And that makes things easy for your staff. And that's what we want. We don't want them to have to do additional work and have a tickler file sitting around, okay? And then the other thing is, of course, additional debt, and that would be, let's say they wrote you a bad check and you had to reverse that payment. Well, now you can even add another $25 fee. Or a child came in and they didn't pay that bill either and it's still in that process. You can add that. Wonderful, easy features that healthcare providers tell me they love. The other thing is that our aging is not based on just it's actually based on financial activity, which means the last payment or the last charge. So it could be the very last payment that they made at the window, an insurance payment, any kind of payment, or it could be the last charge, which is the very last time that they came in and that you had to bill them. Now, the most important thing in the healthcare is they want to maintain relationships. It's very difficult to get one new patient walking in the door. So because you can turn those accounts in at 30, 60, 90 days, you still can maintain the relationship because they've been there so recently that you can keep it and just retrain them. And ending on a thank you note, thank you for resolving the matter. Feel free to use our services in the future. If they were embarrassed or upset or mad or whatever emotion they had, that letter will ease their conscience and ease their pain. And they'll say, even though I got behind, I really appreciate when they're telling that, word of mouth, they'll say, I appreciate the fact that they sent me a thank you letter. I've never seen that. Name me a collection agency anywhere that would send out a thank you letter. But we send this on your behalf so they feel it's coming from you. So those are some of the features. Now what I'd like to show you is just how real easy. Let's put in MoneyQuest Web .com. Very good. And let's just go to the login and, and let's